Hi, I'm Todd Fahnestock, fantasy author and author of The Undying Man, which is the second book in my Whisper Prince trilogy and a finalist in the Colorado Authors League Awards for 2020. And today, what I'd like to do, in addition to introducing the book, is to read you a little excerpt from the book. So the prologue is what I'm going to read for you today, and give you kind of a taste of what goes on in the Whisper Prince world. So I'm going to sit back here and just kind of read this book to you. Prologue, we'll start there. From Rhee's perspective, Rhee is a ring blade who is one of the cadre of all-female assassins in the Whisper Prince world. And the Whisper Prince, from book one, just to kind of give you a little bit of information to catch up, is named Gray, and he has just recently saved the Empire, and this is sort of the aftermath that will then build into the second story. So, without further ado, prologue, Rhee. Rhee was going to betray the man who'd saved the Empire. She could feel him on her tongue as he approached, a light tingle, and she could taste him, the coppery tang of blood. Her pulse beat faster in her neck, her stomach twisted into a knotted rope. As a ring blade, she had faced duty and death without flinching. She'd fought warriors to the bloody end with her weapons, her wits, and her training. With borrowed clothes, a smile, and a handful of lies, she had worn identities like hats, slipping among enemies who would have quickly knifed her if they'd but known the truth. She had made love to men, spending her body upon them only to cut their throats an hour later while they lay dreaming. A ring blade was trained for these things. A ring blade moved events. It was her purpose. But she feared the coming of the Whisper Prince. She turned her face toward the door where Gray would emerge. The royal infirmary housed 24 beds. Azure curtains hung on wooden poles between the patients to give them a modicum of privacy. Moans and soft crying of the victims of the Phantom War filled the room as healers moved from patient to patient. A pungent concoction of medicines rode the air, not quite covering the smell of blood and injury. It smelled of spiced chicken soup, vinegar, and open wounds. It had been an hour since the ring mother had visited and made her promise. "You betrayed us," Celicia had said. "But you can return to the sanctum. You can stand alongside your ring sisters once more, if you can prove yourself." "What must I do?" Rhee had said. "The Whisper Prince must be brought under control." Throughout her youth, Rhee had been invulnerable. Out of all the other young girls in Moondow, she'd been chosen to receive ring blade training. And out of the 14 girls inducted to the sanctum that year, she was one of only 2 who'd survived the training. After she'd risen to prominence among her ring sisters, Rhee had been a model for all ring blades. Then she had fallen from grace. She'd betrayed her order to save her birth sister, Salandra. She'd braced the Slink Lord Kuruk in his own domain. That was the moment Rhee lost her implacable sense of invulnerability. Her fighting prowess had been laughable against Kuruk. Her mental strength had crumbled like a castle built on the sand. He had chewed her arm off, chewed into her mind, and driven her near to madness. He'd driven her like a stubborn beast, beat down her will. When Gray had finally set her free, there had been almost nothing left. Now, the only pain that remained was her severed arm, and it was a blessed relief by comparison to Kuruk's mental flames. One of the twin doors opened at the end of the long room, and Gray entered. When she saw him, the tingling and the taste of copper on her tongue vanished. A lifetime ago, in that fate-filled lateral house in the wet city of Fairmist, she had kissed and cut the Whisper Prince. After she had licked the blade, and she had been taught, as she had been taught, cutting her own tongue as she invoked the blood bond. Her blood had mingled with the blood of the Whisper Prince, and now she could track him wherever he went when she thought of him, concentrated on him. She would always know when he was near. Even in the grips of Kuruk's torture, she had felt him coming. His approach was the tingling, coppery taste of hope. He had been her mission in her first lifetime, before her soul had aged 1,000 years, before she'd known what loss and sacrifice truly was. Now, he was her mission again. That was all it was. That was how she had to look at it. The Whisper Prince must be brought under control. Silesia's final words floated in her mind. And he will not listen to me. You must become his confidant. You must use every talent available to you. Gray stopped at the foot of her bed. He looked like nobility. He wore baggy gray pantaloons, a green doublet of Thearan make, and his right hand was covered with a green glove. She'd gotten a glimpse of that hand at the Temple of the Faya, when she was half mad and desperate to give him the secret knowledge to defeat the Slinks. It had been horribly burned, shrunken into a skeletal claw. Both of them had sustained grievous injuries to their right arms. Gray, at least, could still use his. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Free," she croaked. She cleared her craggy throat and managed to speak in a more normal tone. "Kuruk is out of my head." He sat down on the edge of the bed. His nearness was like a cool, comforting cloth. He'd saved her. He'd saved them all. Gray held an oak branch, absently gripping and turning it, gripping it again. It was about 2 feet long and pocked with smooth nubs where smaller branches had been, almost as though they had been filed off. As she watched, he whispered softly and brushed his hands over the rough bark. It crumbled away like dried leaves, revealing the smooth bronze wood underneath. For a moment she couldn't speak. What he could do was miraculous. She wondered if she'd ever get used to that. He'd just been a brave boy when she'd kissed him in Fairmist. Now, he was something different. He had faced down living nightmares and sent them running. He had walked the dead woods and emerged alive, communicated with goddesses, overcome highblades, and outmaneuvered ringblades. He'd captured the loyalty of the Imperial champion, 2 princesses, and at least 1 crippled, emaciated ringblade. She wanted to help him. It was a pressure in her chest, a debt that needed paying. She wanted to defend this boy who had saved her life and her sanity. But instead, she was going to manipulate him. All right. That's my reading for today. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for supporting the Colorado Authors League and all the other great readings that are also online. Well, I hope to see you in one of the many fantasy lands that are created out there. Enjoy. I'm Todd Fahnestock, and thanks again.